All right, so this is a quick follow-up video because I've had quite a few requests actually of people wanting to know how I did the backsplash of my kitchen. And I just used 1/4 inch underlayment that they sell at Home Depot, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so we're here in my garage. This is what the 1/4 inch underlayment looks like. I'll back up. It comes in a 4x8 sheet. It's in the lumber department, and it is around $14, $13.98 or $14.43, something like that. But this is what it looks like. It's just thin plywood, and I will even give you the SKU number for it. That's the underlayment. You can screenshot that, or I'll link to it also here in the description. But that's what it looks like. I wanted it to be thin because after you put the epoxy on there, that adds 2 coats of actually I only did 1 coat on the backsplash of epoxy, but it adds a little bit more thickness, and I wanted it to look like real stone, like the thickness that a backsplash stone would be cut, so you know, 1/2 inch or so. Okay, so now back into my kitchen and the backsplash. So I've been living with this countertop and backsplash since when did I finish it? I can't even remember. Whenever the original video came out. Anyway, I am in love with it. It is fantastic. I wasn't sure it was going to hold up real well. It has held up so far, so good. It's still shiny as could be. It cleans off so easily. It looks fantastic. I just have a couple, and I'm going to include the video that I did of me in my garage pouring the epoxy, but it doesn't show the paint, putting the paint on. It just shows pouring the epoxy, but I'll put that in here next. But I just wanted to show you one little thing regarding making sure that your cabinets are level so that the joint between your cabinet and your backsplash is nice and tight. I'm going to put my camera on a tripod. Okay, so when you're doing your backsplash and your countertop, I mentioned it in the very end of the prepping for epoxy video that you want to make sure that your countertop is flat and level, which is super important, because otherwise if you have dips in your countertop or your countertop is wavy, it's not going to meet up with your backsplash evenly like mine here. And I didn't realize this until I went to put my backsplash in, and I had all kinds of just waviness in my MDF because my cabinet boxes are not even, because this cabinet box here I built myself because there used to be a refrigerator here, so I built a box here, and this box kind of, the top of it was soft and dipped a little bit. So I tried shimming it, but my countertops were already epoxied, so the epoxy was already hardened on here, so I could only shim so much without the epoxy cracking. So I did not get a level seam here, and it's pretty much from here to here that it dips a little bit, and you can see I had to use white silicone caulk, which you have to do in order to seal up that seam. But if the seam between the countertop and the backsplash is really tight, your caulking is your silicone caulking is very thin, which is what you want. Because I have a dip here, it got real thick, and you can see it, and my coffee pot is over there, and so sometimes if coffee spills, it'll drip down here, and it puddled in here one time, and it made my silicone caulk dark. So anyway, that's a big tip when you're doing this, to make sure that before you pour your epoxy on your countertop, make sure that your countertop is all level. If you need to put a cleat on your wall, just, you know, fasten a 1x2 to your wall underneath the countertop to make sure that this is all nice and level. You get yourself a nice long level, or pop a chalk line from one end to the other to make sure that your countertop is nice and level, so that you have a nice tight seam between your backsplash and your countertop. And I'm sorry I'm repeating myself with this so much, but that's one thing I wish I had known before I poured this. So,
okay, so I've got my backsplash pieces all cut to the proper sizes with the outlet holes already cut out. I dry fitted them on top of the existing epoxy countertops to make sure everything fits, because you don't want to have to go back and cut once your backsplash epoxy is hardened. You want to do all the cutting prior to putting your epoxy on. So I mixed up the epoxy, poured out everything I had in the bucket onto my backsplashes. Don't leave anything in the bucket because if it's pulled up in the bucket, it'll harden no time flat. But once you have the epoxy spread out onto a surface, it will give you a lot of working time. It stays open for a pretty good long time. So pour it all out of your bucket and onto your surface. Mix it up really well on your surface in case it didn't get mixed up in your bucket like I'm doing right here. So just mix it up and spread it all the way out to the edges. And then the last thing that you want to do is just let it drop or fall over the edges. And then the last part, of course, is using your Rust-Oleum spray paint in order to add in your veining and your details. And that part is pretty simple, and it's all up to your own taste how you want that to look. So that's it. It's pretty simple. The next step, obviously, is just to install the backsplash, and I just used liquid nails or construction adhesive to glue it to the wall, and then used a big-headed roofing nail at the top to hold it in place to let it dry and secure it. So it's pretty simple. And then the last step, of course, is to use silicone caulk between the joints of the countertop and the backsplash to seal that edge. So it's that simple, you guys. Don't be afraid. Give it a try. It's pretty easy, and you will be in love with the results. You can do it.